Hello, welcome to Western Kabuki. It's Whack Nicholson. Very excited to be doing this. We've got a guest. We've got some things to talk about. The writers, they're on strike. But first, I have a really, really important question to my beautiful co-host, June. Juniper, I got a really important question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
Are you rocking with 9/11?
I am always rocking with 9/11. You know I am. You know it.
Yeah, I needed to clear the air on that really quickly because a lot of people are refusing to answer you on Blueski when you ask them if they're rocking with 9/11, including
I know.
Notably Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez not rocking with 9/11.
Well,
what's going on over there?
She gave a coded response because she followed you after that.
Yeah, she followed me on Blue Sky after I asked her if she's rocking with 9/11. But Jake Tapper, CNN host, has not responded. He has not acknowledged me, so he's not rocking.
He's not rocking with 9/11.
No, but AOC absolutely is. Same with Nina Turner. She followed me after I asked her as well. So we got two people.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. If you can get an invite code, dear listener, please join us on Blueski. We're skeeting like crazy over there. Well, Juniper is.
I just want to give our guest an opportunity to bail on this now that we've started.
I'm all in on Blue Sky once they said nudes were out there, and I'm like, okay, let's go. I've been waiting for this kind of freedom to skeet, So
it's a good time on there.
Yeah.
Caleb, how are you doing? Are you rocking with 9/11?
You know what? I was actually one of the Israeli dancers in New Jersey on 9/11.
Oh wow.
So yes.
Oh wow, that's a big get for us on the show. We've got one of the guys celebrating the towers falling, and we are very happy to be joined by writer, comedian, actor, and all around sweet fella. Going to be in. He is involved with the Twisted Metal adaptation coming to television. Iffy Nwadiwe, how we doing, Iffy?
Good. I like sweet fella. I'm gonna start adding that.
You are a sweet fella. You are a consummate sweet fella.
I try to be, I do everything I can to be a sweet fella.
That's exactly right. I'm going to tell you right now, because we started off horny, that when you were, because I told you that I showed your episode of Puppet History to my classroom.
Yes.
They absolutely lost their shit when you said that if you were the richest man in the world, every OnlyFans girl would become a 1%er.
Lots of quotables, and I'm glad that they appreciate that. And hopefully, I somehow taught those kids to pay for their porn.
Yeah. And that's really important because these kids out here, they think it's all free. They think it just comes from nowhere. You got to pay your people.
They got it easy too. They don't have to wait for the picture to load.
Oh God.
And to go through free trial, 7 pages of free trials and getting what you can in that time period. It's
or
all
just finding fully illegal pornography by accident. On the internet. Often in a bush. Happened all the time. And we're in a bush.
I don't think.
Did any of you guys ever find woods porn? Is that
no? I'm too young for woods porn.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I definitely. There was one in the bush in the back of the library, and it was definitely like a monkey's paw free porno because we saw that it was like someone dropped it to cover a turd. So it was like, how bad do you want to see these boobs? Are you willing to lift this up and deal with this turd?
Are you a woods porn discoverer, Caleb?
Yeah, dude. I like basically grew because both my parents worked so much. I would like on weekends. I used to live by the Little League field that all the games had every weekend. So like I would just go down there all the time. That's what my social life was as a kid. We just play in the woods all around the fields and treasure trove of pornography all throughout the fields in the woods back there. Yeah.
A treasure trove. See,
those are the original Goon Caves.
Yeah, they were the original Goon Caves. Yeah, I always just kind of assumed that was like fake, like finding porn.
Oh no, it's very real.
No, it's real. I don't understand why. I've still never gotten an explanation as to why.
Yeah, who's putting it there? For what reason?
I've heard people postulate that it's like husbands whose wives don't want them to find their porn, like they don't want to, have the porn in the house, so they put it in the woods.
I think it's like Johnny Appleseed. It's like someone is just seeding the youth with corruption and sexuality.
Yeah. Yeah.
You did remind me though. I never found woods porn, but I did grow up near the school. Like I grew up near a school as well, and in the field after like a football practice, like my brother found a DVD that had clearly been run over by the lawnmower already, and he put it in the DVD player and watched it, and he had it, and it was like I mean, it was called like Hermaphrodite Party 4.
Wow.
No.
And it was just these girls with like giant clits who were like talking about how much they love being quote unquote hermaphrodites.
Insane.
Like
shit.
parlors back then.
Talking to camera.
It was porn. But
Okay.
they did. There was a voiceover.
I was like, I think you might have found your first podcast. You know, like that's
the early days of podcasting where you had to throw DVDs into football fields and hope somebody found it.
Exactly.
So we are here because if you are a member of the Writers Guild of America, how's it going over there in Hollyweird?
Oh, I mean, it's good. I feel like I've said this a bunch, and it makes me feel like one of those, like almost a hipster in a way, where I'm like, I felt like this was a long time coming. I mean, I saw the writing on the wall just based on like being, internet nerd, tech adopter, what have you. So the moment I started writing, my first writing job was back in 2016, writing for 2015, 2016, writing for At Midnight on Comedy Central. And even then, that I got like a very quick lesson into residuals, what they are, what they mean, because at the time, every time, essentially, just to break it completely down and not assume everyone knows everything going on, residuals are essentially getting payment for when something you have written on or acted in has been played on TV. And for writers' residuals, usually you must be paid every time it's aired. And it usually is like a larger chunk the first airing, and it kind of like dwindles down with each airing, and there's different factors that add into why you get paid more or whatever. But just for simplicity's sake, every time something you wrote on or written has been aired, you get paid. And At Midnight, it was a comedy variety show, so there wasn't like episodes. So with when you have episodic TV shows, usually you'll have a written by or story by at the top of the episode, and that writer is the writer who has quote unquote written the episode. Writing is a collaborative effort. You all work together. You usually get assigned episodes, and you take the helm of the episode. So you're the one kind of writing it out from the outline to page and implementing the notes. Everyone's helping, but you're essentially taking the lead on the episode. So, and the reason that's important is that's the person who is getting paid when it airs. On something like a comedy variety show or a late night show, there is no singular written by. Everyone worked on the episode, so everyone kind of gets a piece of that pie. And when I got involved in At Midnight, they were already in talks of making sure they got paid, because At Midnight aired twice. So it would air, they play At Midnight, then they do the rerun of South Park and the rerun of other shows, and then they air At Midnight again. The reason that's important is At Midnight was a daily show, so that means that's a check every day that they were missing out on. They finally got paid out when I was there, so I never even had to worry about the battle. But that's when I learned, I was like, oh, the money is in the residuals, because you get like a weekly pay, but your agents and your manager get a piece of the pie, usually 10%. That's 20%. If you had a lawyer work out your contract, that's another 5%. So that's 25% of your check gone. If you're incorporated, you got to pay the taxes on that, so that's out of the money you get paid. That's probably another around 20% out. So unless you are a higher level writer or writing in a larger capacity, that money that seems so big when you sign the contract gets small real quick. And the money is a lot of times in residuals, because even when you're off of the job, when the job's completed and the show's made, or maybe you're on hiatus, you're still getting paid residuals. I say all that to say, I already back then had a Netflix account and was streaming on Netflix, and a Crunchyroll account. And I was watching the industry kind of move towards the streamer model. And the first strike that most people remember, which was back in 2007, and the reason people remember it is because everyone's like, that's when Lost got bad. Like that's the big tentpole why everyone remembers that. That was the first kind of strike regarding internet, but Netflix wasn't built out like it was back then. It really was a lot to do with NBC putting episodes of SNL on the internet and using that and saying it was advertising, but essentially the people who wrote on SNL weren't getting residuals because it was on the internet. So we had to work out a new media deal, which was all internet-based stuff, which eventually would encapsulate streaming. And because it's this new media deal, there's no residuals worked out. It's a different model, but a lot of people are ingesting TV from streaming platforms now. Like even my show, Grand Crew, the word on the street was that it was our streaming numbers that really secured our second season. So that's a lot different. And another thing about that too is, if you remember back in the day when a show got another season, usually the channel would air the whole first season again, which means that's a whole check going to every writer yet again. With streaming, that doesn't happen anymore because you can just watch it on streaming, and then you get like a much smaller check, just so much smaller from the streaming than you would if it just aired on TV. So that's one side of the current argument. Like that whole speech I just gave you is just one part of what we're bargaining for right now. There's a lot of other stuff that is on the table. AI is which you would think is everyone's kind of looked at AI as like, oh yeah, it could be a helper. And I agree with that. I've seen lots of professionals use it to help, and everyone's kind of not. Everyone's just assumed that no one would use it to replace anything. But studios are definitely thinking along those lines. I mean, there was an article that just came out today that some studios plan to write scripts via AI and have writers rewrite those scripts after the strike's over.
Oh, I saw that one. Yeah.
So you have, the studios do not want to block the chance to use AI, but like one of the issues is, and these are all, and I'll try and send it to you. I remember I told Whack, the only thing you really need to look up, Adam Conover did a very comprehensive, and he was in the negotiating committee, so he was in the room too, but they've listed everything we've asked for and their response. And I think one of the alarming things was with the AI, where we were like, hey, don't use AI to write scripts or to punch up scripts that writers have done, and they've refused to even negotiate on that. They said, we're no response. So if you refuse to negotiate it, that means you already have plans to do it, because
and they said about AI too that like wasn't their plan to have the meeting again in a year or whatever to like table the AI discussion while people
it was much worse than that. No, they wanted instead of even doing that, they wanted us to have meetings on the growing technology and entertainment. It wasn't to negotiate it. It was just to just have a meeting and discuss it.
A little chit-chat.
So yeah, a little chit chat, which is a very soft no,
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? If the people that you're negotiating on the other side of the table are the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. I have no idea what that group of people is comprised of. Who are they? Like, what is their deal?
Can I ask a question to add to Alex's?
Yeah.
Because I was about to ask a similar question. So, like, it seems to me that the different kinds of studios have a different level of skin in the game, whereas, like, Netflix has a lot of unscripted stuff and a lot of content that's coming from all over the world. And it seems like they're probably more content to ride this out than, say, somebody like Sony, who has no streaming service, is going to feel the hit on this right away. How do you think that's going to affect things?
Oh, I mean, we could only wait and see, but you bring up a good point that is actually valid. And I'll be able to answer both those questions. So yeah, the Alliance of Motion Pictures, whatever, is essentially Sony, WB, Disney, Warner Brothers, and Netflix, and essentially all the major studios, so Universal, and they basically do this so that we can work out one. What we're currently negotiating is the MBA, which is the minimums basics agreement. So essentially, the minimum amount that you're able to pay writers and the minimums of how long you can hire them and how many writers, and they do this so that there can just be one negotiation, because before Netflix was even a part of this, they essentially just in order to work with the WGA, they had to accept this same minimums basics agreements. So really, that's just so everyone can have a voice in the room. But you make a good point. Netflix is negotiating on a whole different level. You have these, like, for lack of a better term, OGs like Universal and Warner and a lot of these, services that streaming is just a bonus to what they do. The most money will always forever be an advertisement. Like billions of dollars are in advertisement. That's why they have what's called upfronts. What upfronts are is after pilots are sold and picked up, they have a big event, essentially a convention in New York, where advertisers get to look at the shows that are about to be on TV in the fall so that they can pre-sale all their ad buys for shows that kind of so it's the reason why when Empire was on, you had all the black AT&T ads and all the black McDonald's, because they're like, okay, a lot of black people are going to be watching this show, so let's target the ads toward them. It allows advertisers to pick the shows that to best advertise to whatever demographic, and that's where all the money's made. And then the bonus is in streaming, even though there's lots of money being made in streaming because everyone likes streaming, because you can watch television at your leisure. You don't have to be watching TV at Wednesdays at 8. You can watch it whenever you're ready. So it's moving over there, but then that's a different model. It's the subscription model. So Netflix, that's all they have. So we're directly cutting into their main source of income. Whereas, like, some of the other companies are probably, I can't read their mind. I don't know. I want, like, not only was I not in the negotiating room, the negotiators probably wasn't in the room with all these different studios having their own separate conversation. But I'd imagine that Netflix is a little more wary of these, minimums and raises, and especially the residuals from streaming, because it's this, that's all they have. So now their pie is directly getting cut into. So what's happening now is we're also asking for things like a minimum amount of time and also getting paid for pre-greenlit rooms. So what that means is, say, y'all sell a show to me. I'm the studio. You sell the show to me and you're like, here's the show. We made the pilot. And I'm like, I like this, but I want to see, what a season would look like. So now you will get people to come together, maybe a small room of like anywhere from you 3 to like you get 3 other people. You have a room of 6 and you work for 8 weeks, essentially writing this show to give me an idea of this. And then I greenlight your room and you get 10 weeks to do the rest of the season. So essentially you did 18 weeks of work for 10 weeks of pay. And so the WGA is trying to stop that, saying that you need to pay people for all the weeks of work. Even if you didn't greenlight it yet, if they're writing scripts for you, they need to be paid.
So with I mean, what we're hearing a lot from WGA members, especially Adam Conover, who has really been like at the forefront of a lot of this. He's in the negotiating room. He was on Hassan's stream either today or yesterday.
Yeah.
He's really trying to get the word out there, and the thread was very helpful that you directed me toward. And I was just watching his video about AI specifically. But I think that a lot of our listeners, a lot of people in general, just aren't really familiar with how draconian and horrible show business is. And a lot of people are like, you write on some big popular show, you must be like rich or whatever. It's like, nah, dog. Like even the actors aren't rich. Like they're just like barely scraping by while Netflix continuously grows for years. Now, obviously they've had a lot of troubles in the past like 12 months or so, but it's like really dark what people go through in order to do their dream job in the big pictures. And it's a system that really grinds people up and drives them insane. And I don't think a lot of people realize, especially a lot of the like reactionaries and psychopaths on Twitter and shit that are like, oh, they're just millionaires arguing with billionaires, nothing to see here. And it's like, first of all, no, it's not. And second of all, even if it was, take the millionaire side, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny because, when you think of writers, right, you're thinking of like the Issa Raes, the Lena Dunhams, the Taika Waititis, the I don't want to say 1% because I think that number's maybe a little larger, but like the top tier of it, the people who are making the most money, the people who are the most famous, and you're not thinking about all the people under it and the steps it takes to get to that level. So I think a lot of people just assume if you write in Hollywood, you're rich. And especially if you go to the site and look up the minimums and you just see like, oh, the minimum for a staff writer, you're getting like, $3,000 a week. You're like, whoa, that's a lot. But like the things I listed where it's like, like I said, it can be anywhere from 20 to 25% taken out. On top of that, you still got to pay taxes on that because you're seeing the untaxed rate. And then on top of that, so if you're single without kids, that's Uncle Sam gonna get your ass. Source me when I first started. But you like there's just so many like layers to it. But I will say, there are some of us who do make good money and that's all great. But I think it's like you said, it's like it's these like upper middle class people versus actual billionaires. And two, we're asking for 2%. And really it's those people that you're looking at, you're like, look at how rich they are. They're most of those people are good. They're good. What they're doing is they're fighting for the people under them. And I think that's what's so funny that I think a lot of people miss about collective bargaining, right? Where it's like, oh, you got this. Is like, yeah, but just because I've made this much money or I've ascended doesn't mean I forget about my fellow writers who aren't at this level yet. And we're also trying to make sure there's a system so that writers can achieve that because they're essentially back in the day, you would start as a writer's assistant, work a couple seasons, get a staff writer, produce your episode, learn to be, work your way up. So like there's levels to it. So you got staff writer, then from staff writer, you become story editor, executive story editor, co-producer, producer, co-EP, EP, now you're EPing, and then eventually you're show running shows. And now you're selling and making, there was a system to it that, through changing times and the way that rooms work. I mean, people used to be in rooms for a whole year. And now there are some people who only get like 15 weeks to write, a season of TV. So that is also, if you look at a weekly pay scale, that definitely if a 30-week job versus a 15-week job, you cut their pay in half. And they're probably asking for the same delivery. So you cut the pay in half, you cut the system to help people move forward, which is why, and that just adds to a whole bunch of stuff, because if you're not able to move up, it's how, these diversity initiatives don't end up working because you have, these Black writers get the diversity spot as staff writer, don't really make the connections, can't really break out of that entry level position, so they can't pass it on, because a lot of writing stuff is kind of word of mouth, who you know and who you can submit to, because your peers are usually hiring each other. So if you can't break into that peer group, then that's another way you're kind of like making it even harder to find your next job.
Yeah, and I think that even what you said about like the different writers' rooms and stuff, trying to get even any position at all in a writer's room, it's so much different now. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that the same thing that happened to every other job happened to television and movie writers as well. They are being overworked, they are being underpaid, and they are being told that they should be grateful for it. And the thing that's really like getting me fucking angry online is when people are like, oh, well, maybe now they'll get new writers and like next season of House of the Dragon will be better. And it's like, no, dog, that's not how this is going to work. That isn't how any of this works.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's just so many people online with just opinions that don't make sense. It's just carrying over from the usual, having no clue about how things work, and like who they choose to yell at, and and who's actually making the decision whether or not She-Hulk is thick or not. It is, and I come to expect it, because I'm 35 now. I wasn't, I was in my freshman year of college when the last writer's strike was, but I think it was right before that. It was a huge Kroger strike that was happening across grocery stores, and my aunt was working in a grocery store, so I was on those picket lines and kind of seeing the way people would get mad and just like, how did it is just the weird Jedi mind trick that billionaires have implemented that people still can't seem to break free of, where it's like, why are you mad at this person wanting a living wage, and then why is your argument, my living wage isn't that much, why should you get paid? It's like, bro, you should get paid more too. Why is your solution being like, I need people to suffer with me, instead of, I need to be doing what they're doing because they're right, I'm not making enough. It's truly, I can only describe it as brain worms, because and I think it's and I think the more compassionate way I look at it is, it just seems more daunting to try and take down people who you see as your peers. I mean, it's less daunting to try and take down people who you see as your peers than to go up against actual billionaires, and then that's one side of it. And then the other side is the Fry and Futurama meme, where people think that that's their journey, so they're fighting to protect a position that they think they're gonna be millionaires one day, so they want this inequality to work for them eventually, which is
it's not gonna happen, bro. It's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
It shows how little solidarity, I feel like.
No
maybe
concept,
not the average
no
American,
concept
but
of
just
solidarity at all.
Yeah, just getting angry. It's been wild. Like, of course, there's been a lot of like insane online takes, and specifically like, oh, now that the writers are gone, AI can show us what it can do. And people have, like, Ben Shapiro has made one that is still living in my brain.
Remarkably bad.
He like so bad. It was something like he entered in a prompt like, write a comedy scene where it was like about bargaining, like collective bargaining, and I just read it and I was like, wait, did he think this was like funny or good, or like what is this?
I just truly, it would make more sense to me if we found out that this is just one big bit, all the Shapiros and Tucker Carlson, because it's like, you can't possibly be this daft.
Well, after learning from Tucker's private text messages, he's not that daft. He knows he's full of shit, and he doesn't like working with some of the more insane people, so he offloads them to Janine Pirro, and it's like, he knew what he was doing. So I've been doing, like, my students are like not fucking interested in AI, because I was like, we're gonna use ChatGPT, I got let go by my school district, so I'm not going to be teaching after the end of the school year. And so I told the kids, and I'm just like, we're going to be real fucking loosey goosey in here until the end of the year, guys. And so I say to them, I want to write an essay, or I want you guys to write an essay. I want you guys to pick a news story since, we'll say, the fall of the Berlin Wall. So like since like 1990, let's pick a news story, and I want you guys to write an essay. I want 1,000 words, 5 pages, 5 sources cited in MLA style. And they're like, oh, that sucks. Fuck that. We don't want to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but what if ChatGPT wrote it for you? And the real assignment is that you guys have to try your hardest to make ChatGPT sound like you wrote it.
Yeah.
And
that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, the kids were like really into it until we started playing with AI today. Literally today, this morning, I was like, what do you guys want to ask it? Like, it can sort of search the internet and it's going to reply to us in like a naturalistic way. What do you guys want to search? And they're like, ask it if God is real. I was like, it doesn't contain esoteric secret knowledges. It is just the internet, guys. So then by the end of it, they're like, I don't want to fucking do that. It's a fucking pain in the ass, that thing.
Yeah.
I had it write a story today for one class. A girl said, I was like, let's do a creative thing. We'll write a story. What do you want the story to be about? And a girl says, I want a detective story about a secret room. And I was like, sounds good. So I tell it to do that. And then it's like, Detective Jack Reed could smell the strangeness as soon as he entered the house. And the kids were like really impressed. They're like, wow, I like really wrote a story. I was like, well, let's point to some of the like cliches. And it turns out that there's a time travel device inside of the secret room that sends Detective Jack Reed to the future. And I'm like, why did this house that had a burglary in it also have a time travel device in a secret hidden room behind a bookshelf in the kitchen? Why does their kitchen have a bookshelf? I'm really curious about all this stuff. And and the kids were like, oh, this is kind of weak. And I'm like, yeah, it's just a Google search with like better responses. Is all it is.
Yeah. I know it's truly just like just laziness, like what it comes down to, and just trying. It's the typical, like, I think what sucks the most about this is it's creative work being bogged down by the same bullshit corner cutting that businesses try to use that fail anyway. And I think the problem, and I think the thing that these blue checks who jump in front of the bullet for billionaires never see is how many businesses usually a lot of these people run through that fail, and then they hop to the next one. And lots of times their biggest talent is acquisition, having the money to acquire people's good ideas and then hiring people under them who prevent them from running it into the ground. I mean, I think the easiest way to see it is this genius that was Elon Musk completely running Twitter into the into the ground. Like because it's like, even you had like most of the people who were making Twitter work leave or get laid off or get fired, or and now he's stuck with like essentially a bare bones team that he's asking to do all this labor for free, and he's still running it into the ground. Because even if it was good, even if like somehow I was on here was like, I'm actually thinking about spending $8 because the site is better, that would have came at the cost of unpaid labor. Like that's just the facts of it. Is he had people sleeping in the office, and I doubt they were getting overtime or anything like that.
No. They're all there on H-1B visas. They're just trapped. I think that I do want to get a little messy, but we typically, we cut it off at about an hour, and then the rest is paywalled content, so we can wait for that. Because I want to get a little messy about speculation of what shows are going to suffer the most. But I told my kids today, I was like, oof, I'm not a psychic, But I can tell you all right now, Rick and Morty is done. There's no more Rick and Morty. I can promise you all that.
You think so? With the news of what's his name?
Justin Roiland. I don't think that show. It's fucking. Well, it's Adult Swim. You know, it's not NBC. They're not going to like cape for that show.
I think the funniest thing about that too is Rick and Morty only very recently became WGA. So like in theory, if this strike would have happened any earlier, Rick and Morty could have still been going.
Oh my god,
that's amazing! I didn't know they were recently. That's really funny.
Now,
but Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon are in WGA, surely.
Oh well. Well, there's lots of different weird fucky workarounds with stuff like that. Like animation can be really weird like that, but now Animation Guild writers are often being covered. But yeah, I mean, not all shows have to be WGA. So there's a lot of and usually when it's animation is when people try to get around that. And more like, there was a really good tweet that said, all these people who think that, we're going to get reality TV out of this strike don't know that there's a lot of writers who make reality TV because a lot of times they're segment producers, but they're really writing segments. But because it's not like writer, they're able to work outside the, union.
So with that being said, I do want to actually wax nostalgic about the 2007 strike, because for those too young to recall the 2007-2008, it went from November 2007 to February 2008. For those too young to remember that strike, it was a very strange time. I know people have been sharing the clip of Conan spinning the ring on the desk, but that was Conan's decision because he was like paying his writers, and a lot of the people a lot of the bigger, like you said, we'll call them 1% writers for the sake, like Jimmy Fallon, Quinta Brunson, Jimmy Kimmel are all like promising to pay their writers as if they are still writing, even though they're on strike, because a lot of these people know where they come from. But in 2007, it wasn't like the start of a lot of that shitty reality stuff from the mid 2000s, but as soon as that writer's strike got started, Next at MTV got renewed for a whole new season, and so did Flavor of Love season 3 was during the strike. The very first season of Celebrity Apprentice was during the writer's strike, and that ghoulish television show, Moment of Truth, was also started during the writer's strike, where you just bring somebody on and they're like, have you ever had sex with your cousin? And then
I remember that. Yeah.
And the person's like, yeah, for sure, I fucked my cousin. And it's like, that's $10,000 for you.
What the fuck? I was definitely one of the people that was too young. I think I was like 12 or something when that strike happened. So I was too young to kind of understand the gravity of that situation. So hearing about all this stuff, and seeing it happen now is really interesting. And then it's kind of seeing where things went. Because I feel like with this strike in particular, like with writers, compared to a lot of different strikes, it's a lot more visible. Like when you hear about like rail strikes, you don't really see it like manifest necessarily in society in the same way that already we've kind of seen the writer's strike, and seeing that like visibility that a lot of these writers have and effect like on culture has been really interesting so far. So do you guys think that there's going to be like a new wave, like depending on how long this goes, of course, but if let's say it goes on for a long time, do you think there's going to be like a new wave of like weird television like there was in 2007?
My guess, I'm not the first person to say this, is that that won't happen, because I think they are going to hire social media stars, big Instagram influencers, TikTokers. I think they're going to try to continue the creative story writing output by hiring like Jake Paul to write the next season of Big Bang Theory or whatever the fuck.
Oh Lord.
I mean, they can try it. It's really what I think is going to happen is, I think you're right. I think one of the like wild things about strikes, or the writer strike specifically, is we're striking, but we're not done writing. And I think it gives a lot of people time to refine and craft ideas. And, after it's done and we get back to work, you're just going to have just a excess of ideas. And I think because of that, it's going to make TV more fun, more weird, and all that stuff. But to be honest, I am curious because we're in an interesting just place, I think, as just economically as a society, and you see a lot of people who are, kind of with their backs up against the wall. And I don't know if they're going to try to, exploit that and try and get people to scab, but it's just not good because the WGA is very much not a fan of that. So much so that if you scab, you will never be able to get membership. And when the strike's over, the only writing job you will be able to get is WGA. So it's like, yeah, you can, if you want, you can have maybe a couple months of work and never work in this industry again, or you can just hold tight and punch up an idea and be ready to sell by the time this is done.
I'm sure he never would do it, but friend of the show and TikTok celebrity Christian McCartney, do not take a contract with Warner Brothers. They're trying to trick you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot of that. But yeah, I did a little fun thing earlier today. I asked ChatGPT what the effects of the 2007 writer's strike were. And basically from like the programming and the like ratings numbers, it didn't really affect those for the big shows because the big shows were Law and Order and American Idol, and that was basically everything. But it did result in some really wild reality shows that I did not really remember. There was a Dancing with the Stars spinoff that I do remember. I do not remember 2008's NBC reality series, The Baby Borrowers.
The fuck is that?
What?
NBC reality series premiered in June 2008 and followed several teenage couples who were tasked with taking care of children of various ages, including infants and toddlers, is how ChatGPT describes it. Wow. I haven't even looked. I'm sure the poster for it is absolutely brain fried and totally melted in the worst way possible. We also got Wipeout, which I think most people will be familiar with. Wipeout debuted.
Wipeout did kick ass.
Yeah.
June
enjoyed that show. Yeah,
June 2008. But I have a feeling that Caleb, Alex, and Iffy will remember. I survived a Japanese game show.
Oh, I vaguely remember that.
That had like a full season, and my parents were like fully Matilda's parents laughing at the guy reaching for the money. They were like so into I survived a Japanese game show where people
I do
were
not
just like
remember this. Can you summarize it for me?
Like those mid 2000s Japanese game shows that weren't actually game shows. By the way, and to any millennials, those Japanese game shows weren't game shows. They were fake game shows for like a clip show that were written by writers and sketch artists. But then one of them, which was a sketch show, got dubbed over by a MTV show, and they made it seem like it was a real show with real competition, and they talked about the people as if they were competing, even though that original show had no
Are you talking about MXT?
Yes, MXT.
Yes, that was Something's Castle, and they would create these personas, and it was it started off on Spike TV, and then G4 was airing it for a bit, but I definitely remember that.
So that kind of stuff, like they made it seem like Japan had these wild ass game shows where people would have to like stick their head into like a scorpion nest or something like that, or literally jump through hoops in order to be given cash. And they just did it as if it was a real game show in the United States. And it ran, I think, for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Really fucking crazy. And I will say I did try to find I did try to find more information about the Fox reality television show, Who's Your Daddy? in which like 16 orphans were competing for the chance to find their biological
I do
parents.
remember that one.
Wow.
One of the sickest things that's happened on television. Yeah.
That's insane.
That was canceled after one episode, though. So
Really?
one episode, exactly one played. I did ask. Then I asked ChatGPT, what are some shows that were similarly canceled from the era of the writer's strike? And it said The American Dream Vote. This reality show premiered on ABC in 2007 and was canceled after only 2 episodes. The show featured contestants presenting their dreams and aspirations to a live audience, who then voted on which dreams they thought were the most worthy of being fulfilled.
Yes.
Oh my god.
I remember that show. That was wild.
There was also a
they were really trying to come up with anything at this point.
Yeah.
Oprah's I will just point out, everything that the studios and the networks come up with on their own is extremely cynical and extremely nasty. And that should tell you a lot about the people that run these companies. Is that it's like, what if we get a bunch of fucking orphans and give them $100,000 or whatever? Oprah's Big Giveaway was another one, which is pretty self-explanatory. They turned the You Get a Car thing into a reality show. The Dance Machine, this dance competition show premiered on ABC in June 2008 and was canceled after only 1 episode. The show featured contestants competing in a dance-off to win a cash prize. I would imagine that it got buried by G4's classic television show, Dance Off, which was also from that era, and also a stone cold masterpiece in which totally normal, regular people would pick one song and get nude and dance to it on camera, and it was put on the fucking television.
Oh my god! So when people say television was really bad in this time during the writer's strike, they were not joking.
Yeah, no.
Holy shit!
No, they were very serious.
Wow. I definitely, with the amount of people saying it online, I was like, okay, there's probably some truth to it, but I was too young to really experience this. Also, I did not know.
The huge negative side of it is, like, the last strike was 100 days, so a lot of this stuff was already down the pipeline. So you had a horrible. So don't worry. I feel like these are ideas that probably would have been shelved and never shown, and because the strike happened, they're like, well, we got to try this dumb, evil idea that we tested and no one liked it.
I mean, I'm nearly certain that some of those were also including like reality shows that were shelved indefinitely by the networks that they had like 3 episodes of, and they were like, just fucking put it on, boost it like it's a real show. If it does well, we'll bring back the writers after the strike. Like there was definitely they had fucking thrown away shit that they ended up putting on television, much like The Phone. This reality TV show debuted on April 2009 on MTV and was canceled after only 4 episodes. The show featured contestants receiving phone calls with instructions to complete various missions and challenges. Basically a fucking escape room that they just put on television.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow.
They were desperate. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So as far as like the future of the strike, I'm not asking you to like talk about strategy or what you've like seen from rank and file people, but like if you had to guess, where does this go? Is this going to go longer than 100 days? Do you think it's going to have similar effects to the 2007 strike? What are you thinking, Iffy?
I mean, I think this is just gonna, like, honestly, I have no clue, and I think it's just going to go as long as they can stand. I feel like it's kind of like I said, it takes a while to feel the hurt from the writer's strike because you have scripts that have been delivered. You have, all these different ways that it's going to take a little longer. But one thing I also know is that next week the Directors Guild is going to be negotiating their contract, and in June you have the SAG Guild negotiating their contract. And so it's only going to get spicier for these studios. So
hell yeah.
That's awesome. So truly, it's like the ball's in their court, and they really are at this point risking a whole industry shutdown by not just being reasonable and sharing literally 2% of their profits.
Do you think we could see something like in the early 60s where like Lucille Ball and Charlie Chaplin and a bunch of other people got together to like start their own studio? Do you see like an artist-led coalition or anything like that?
That is definitely something I've been like dreaming about.
Yeah,
because like that would be just fun to see, and I just like a shakeup like that. So I wouldn't count it out. I think eventually, I've thought about this a few times too. I was like, I do think after a while people would just, I mean, when you got like two other unions that between the SAG, Directors Guild, and writers, and Teamsters holding us down, like that's what you need to make movies and TV. So we'll have the tools. Only time will tell.
Are you telling me that the industry does not need 38-year-old cokeheads screaming TikTok reality show in their office?
Yeah, no. Something tells me we could do without that.
So, and if I remember correctly, the demands that you guys are trying, like the main demand is 2% residuals, right?
Well, just it's the pay raise and the minimums, 2% residuals. Yeah, just a couple. Not.
It seems really easy, but the studios are trying so hard to not do something. For me, I mean, maybe I'm naive, but I feel like the studios, with the amount of money they make, this should be an easy give here.
Oh, definitely. But that the thing about you, like, you don't become a billionaire by being reasonable.
Very true.
You become a billionaire by being extremely stingy, no matter how simple it would be to share a slice of the pie. So that's why
because they don't view it as a slice. They see it as an inch to give, in which the Directors Guild will decide to take a mile with their negotiation.
Exactly.
So, but they're fucked. I mean, they're genuinely fucked, because the strike doesn't have to last 100 days to hit the Directors Guild negotiation. And fucking Lord of the Rings, the Lord of the Rings show is continuing production without any writers, showrunners, or production staff on set at all.
Wait, are you kidding me?
I am not.
Who's on set? What are they doing?
The actors and the directors. But there's no production team or anything.
That's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
Oh no.
By the way, do you guys know when that new Alec Baldwin movie is dropping? Because I've been yeah. It's just, I heard so much about it and now I don't hear anything about it. Is it coming out soon?
It's so strange.
Yeah.
Does something happen when production staff is not on set?
I wonder.
I was curious, like I've been reading a lot of ire sort of reserved specifically for, I'm going to have to get the name here, Carol Lombardini, the person who runs the Alliance of et cetera. What is her deal, and why is everybody, like, has she said crazy shit? Like, why is everybody so specifically furious at her in this moment? That may seem obvious, but I mean, generally it's like, has she been doing things that are like incendiary?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's just as the voice of this, group of billionaires, she's been saying, some wild, condescending things. And I think because of that, it's really cranking up the heat and only getting people more amped up. It's really great because, the more people you got saying silly shit, it only gets people more excited to strike. It only gets people more excited to hold strong, because it's like, sure, we can focus on not working and focus on, what our finances may look like down the line, but you tend to forget all that when you have people say things like writers should be happy that they have I forget the exact quote, but essentially happy that they have what they have, so we should be happy with what they've given us, as if they're not eating off of our labor.
I did have just another kind of a nerdy economics type question about this. It seems to me like every one of these studios now is trying to start their own streaming service, or the landscape for that has changed, and a lot of these services really aren't working out the way that they were hoping that they would. And do you think that is going to play a role in how they respond to the strike for the writers, for you guys asking for more money?
I mean,
how do you think that is?
I mean, I think that's already kind of where we're at, or why we're at where we're at, because you have so many of these studios kind of went all in on these SVOD services, and they're just running into issue after issue, like let Max, formerly known as HBO Max, formerly known as HBO Go.
The worst rebrand.
HBO Now as well. It was also HBO Now for a hot minute.
But horrible, all horrible rebrands.
But they, along with Disney Plus, got into a lot of legal trouble because actors make money on points, and when they chose to go direct to their streaming service and not to theaters, it was aptly pointed out that they cut into those profits, even though there were many other things. I mean, it was literally a global pandemic that is still going on, sure, but like they're trying their best to see if they can cut out the middleman. If both financially with distribution, but also, as you can see, with writers and AI. They're trying this. You have a bunch of uncreative people seeing if they can cut out the creative people and still make money, and everyone's kind of just sitting back and watching them be like, you're just confused. And I mean, the only way we can show them is just by letting them see how that works out for them.
I would love to see that play out. I would love to put the people on Twitter or whatever that are like, oh, I bet you TV shows are going to get better now that these writers are gone. I would love to appoint those people to write some scripts, like direct some shows, and see what they come up with.
Oh,
I would love to see what their brains can conjure.
I am sure there are script readers that are the absolute bottom feeders at every single studio that can send you over about 5 to 10 million scripts that sound exactly like those guys would.
I kind of feel like anybody who says that, it's going to get better without the writers, like, you should be forced to go into a room and pitch your show. Like, that's your punishment for being so stupid.
The hook of my guy, it's like Rick and Morty, but what if he said the N-word? I think we have like 8 or 9 seasons out of that one alone.
Oh yeah. It is funny because yours is much nicer than me. Every time I see a take like that, I wish there was a way to block them for being able to watch any TV. like just immediately invalidate all their accounts where it's like, well, you don't need it, so why? Because that's what happens is you have all these people who are like, oh, this, and as soon as the writers are back, they're rushing to watch the new thing. They're rushing to, and it's like, that's why it's just so annoying because it's like you're just you're that one African overlord video where it's like, I don't want peace, I just want to cause problems. Like in the end, you want the benefits of the writers winning this strike, but you have nothing better to do than to try and be a contrarian, because that's the only way anyone online will get to talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I'm not even obviously like a writer, and those takes baffle me and frustrate me. I can't imagine how it feels actually being like a writer in this strike, seeing people say that. Like, that would drive me so mental.
Yeah, I know.
I also could get to 200,000 followers on Twitter by saying that I'm rocking with 9/11. I think it would actually be pretty easy.
Look, I don't know how I got where I got. I don't get it.
Yeah.
All right, Ithy. So we're gonna start wrapping up here before we get extra spicy. What would you like to plug coming up? What do you got going on?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think definitely follow me on the on the internets, and I'll keep you up to date on what's going on. It's funny. I feel like in good conscience, I don't want to plug any of the things I've written on because, it's, it'll be great when it's great. And I'll tell you about it when it's there, but stand strong. We're gonna win this. It's just, I think that's what got me so amped up. I went to the big meeting last night where all of the unions pulled up. You had IATSE, you had Teamsters, you had DGA, you had Laborers Union, you had SAG, DGA, PGA, everyone came through, and it really just kind of was an exciting show of solidarity. But like, I remember sitting in the room and was like, yeah, if they can't do anything without us, and that's what's exciting. It's like you can't win. You can try. This is a good, honestly, this is a great time to put that idea to bed, where it's like, go ahead, try your little AI, try that, and good luck finding a director. Maybe you can stand on set and try and figure it out, and when that all crashes and burns, come pay us what we're worth, and we'll go make some good TV.
Hell yeah
Solidarity.
Well, where on the internet can people find you?
Oh, Iffy Nwadiwe, just my name, Iffy Nwadiwe, Twitter, Instagram. You'll see that. Eventually Blue Sky when I get that invite, probably under some nudes.
Bro, get Iffy a code. What the fuck are y'all doing?
Yeah.
I'm sadly out. I have no more codes.
I don't have any
either.
either. They never gave me any. I didn't even have one code.
Oh my God.
We had a nice little run of, I had some, and then some friends had some in the Western Kabuki Discord. So hang out in there, maybe, guys, if you're listening, and if you hang out there, maybe you'll get one in the next week or so.
All right.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for codes.
Hell yes. Thank you so much for listening to Western Kabuki. I'm Whack Nicholson. Thank you so much to Iffy. Have a good day. Goodbye.
It's the Twitter file.
Hey, this is Alex. I just wanted to let you know that there is another entire hour of Western Kabuki over at the Patreon, patreon.com/Western Kabuki. This week, Whack, June, and Bird take questions from all of you. They talk about Steven Crowder, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and much, much more. Again, that's patreon.com/Western Kabuki. All right, take it easy.
To silence right-wing voices, and they denied having done so.